Yep.
Heading into the 2010 season, one big question was, did Rodgers elevate the Packers to a championship level?
Yes,
Unfortunately, the season didn't go the way the Packers hoped. Injuries dominated the headline.
I mean, literally, I remember that Russell Wilson just tossed the damn ball across his body, across the field, and it got converted. It's like, bro, somebody put a f***ing hand up. I gotta admit, it made me a little choked up because it just sucks to see Aaron go out like he did, one Super Bowl ring a long time ago. I hear that from other NFC North fans as well, that, you know, Jordan Love's a good player. They're like, oh, he's a good player, he's all right and everything, but I don't fear him like I feared Aaron. I feared Aaron. Uh-oh, we going. It's your boy Red Dog _ENT, and we back. Today we got How Good Was Prime Aaron Rodgers Actually by Blitz. Thank you for the content. Let's get it. Obviously, me as a Packers fan, I got to do this one, right? We got to. Come on now.
His time with the Jets was rough, to say the least.
Yeah.
But for nearly two decades, he dominated the NFL and is arguably the most skilled quarterback the game has ever seen. He's pulled off throws that defy the laws of physics, turned broken plays into highlight reel magic, and became the king of Hail Marys.
Gonna get there. He turned 32 yesterday. Does he have a vintage moment in it? In the end zone.
All while maintaining the best touchdown to interception ratio of all time and racking up four MVPs, the second most in NFL history. But how good was prime Aaron Rodgers actually? And did he reach a level of quarterback play that we may never see again? Coming out of high school, Rodgers was an unranked prospect and wasn't heavily recruited. In fact, he began his college career at Butte Community College.
Yeah, bro. Imagine Aaron Rodgers slinging rocks at a community college. That's insane.
Far cry from the bright lights of Division I football. But even then, his talent was undeniable. In his 1 year at Butte, Rodgers led his team to a 10-1 record and a conference championship, showcasing his pinpoint accuracy and football IQ.
So what happened in the conference championship? Did he choke it up there too? I had to. He said they made a conference championship appearance. Didn't say they actually won it, but you know, that would be the story of his career. And honestly, actually, the one NFC championship he did win, he actually didn't play particularly well. It was the defense that saved the day that time. But let's go.
Catching the attention of Jeff Tedford, the head coach of the University of California, Berkeley. And in just 2 seasons as the Golden Bears starting quarterback, he racked up 43 touchdowns to just 13 interceptions and completed over 63% of his passes. His ability to read defenses, deliver precise throws, and lead his team made him a standout. And in a game against the top-ranked USC Trojans, he completed an eye-popping 23 consecutive passes, tying an NCAA record. So it was no surprise that Rodgers was widely considered one of the top quarterback prospects in the class when the 2005 draft rolled around. And even better, his childhood favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers, had the first overall pick. But on draft day, A-Rod's worst nightmare came true.
The San Francisco 49ers select Alex Smith, quarterback, Utah.
Now, of course, there are a lot of jokes you can make about the 49ers skipping out on Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers doing them a solid by giving him an 0-4 record in the playoffs against him. But Aaron Rodgers has a Super Bowl. I guarantee you the San Francisco 49ers would trade all of their 21st century success for one Super Bowl win. I mean, you can have all the appearances in the world. You don't win anything. Doesn't mean shit.
His draft day slide became one of the most talked about moments of the night. Despite being hailed as a potential superstar, concerns about his mechanics, his attitude,
gets sacked a lot, doesn't have ability to change the release of the football, mechanically very rigid.
And even the system he played in at Cal caused teams to pass on him over and over again. The frustration on his face was clear as the picks kept rolling by and the cameras captured every second of his agonizing wait. When asked about the heartbreak in an interview, Rodgers said,
"How disappointed are you that you will not be a 49er?
Not as disappointed as the 49ers will be that they didn't draft me."
But then, finally, with the 24th overall pick, the Green Bay Packers ended.
I do think if the 49ers drafted Aaron Rodgers, they win at least one Super Bowl. But I think with the team they typically have, the defense they typically have, them weapons, they win a couple at least a couple, maybe 3. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below. Let's go.
Did Rodgers' freefall. However, the Packers already had a living legend at quarterback, Brett Favre, a 3-time MVP and one of the most beloved figures in franchise history. So for Rodgers, it meant his NFL debut would have to wait, as he began his career not on the field, but on the sideline, learning from one of the greats.
Fun fact for me, Brett Favre is actually what made me become a Packers fan. I truly became a true diehard Packers fan in 2007. I have always liked them. I always liked the green color. I don't know. I always liked Brett Favre, but I truly became a lifelong Packers fan in 2007, which all Packers fans know that was the final year of Brett Favre in a Packers uniform, right? And he took us to the NFC Championship game. Unfortunately, he threw a pick against the eventual Giants, who won the Super Bowl that year against the Patriots. But yes, I think everybody loved Brett Favre back then. He was just such a likable guy. He did become a little unlikable when he started to not want to come to camp and do all this crazy shit. And, you know, big stars kind of get like that when they get older in their career. They're like, bro, I done paved the way. I done did all the summer camps. I don't need to do that shit no more. I can come out and play. But he did become a little bit of a pain in the ass, but he still was beloved in Green Bay. We saw this past year, well, 2 seasons ago, when they traded Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, how much they hated Aaron Rodgers. And it's crazy because is Jordan Love that guy? We still got that question to this day. Let's go.
Wasn't without challenges. Favre wasn't exactly a mentor in the traditional sense. As the veteran quarterback famously stated,
my job's hard enough to win ball games and be a leader. You're not a babysitter.
The relationship between the two was tense but professional. And during those years, Rodgers embraced the opportunity to learn. He studied the game obsessively, mastering the intricacies of the Packers' offense and watching how Favre handled the pressures of being an NFL quarterback. But Rodgers saw limited action in his first few seasons, playing in just 7 games and attempting 59 passes. By 2008, the Packers made a bold decision. It was time to move on from Favre and hand the keys to their first-round QB who'd been waiting for 3 years. The move was questionable. Fans were divided, and some questioned whether Rodgers could fill the shoes of a future Hall of Famer. But for Rodgers, it was his turn to show the world what he could do. And from the moment he took the field, he showed flashes of the potential that would define his career. Rodgers finished the year with 4,038 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. A solid stat line for his first season at the helm. He also became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 4,000 yards in his first season as a starter. However, this season didn't mark the start of Rodgers' prime, because while he had a solid year, the team struggled. The Packers finished the season 6-10, and for the first time since 2006, they missed the playoffs. But in 2009, Aaron Rodgers had a full season under his belt, and we witnessed potential turn into superstardom. From the start of the season, he displayed an incredible ability to deliver in clutch moments. He led the Packers to an impressive 4-2 start, with the offense firing on all cylinders. Rodgers' arm strength and pinpoint accuracy were on full display, as he regularly connected on deep passes that left everyone in awe. By the end of the season, Rodgers had firmly established himself as one of the league's elite quarterbacks. He threw for 4,434 yards, 30 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions, finishing with a passer rating of 103.2, which was second in the NFL. He also showcased his mobility, rushing for 316 yards and 5 touchdowns, adding another layer to his game. Despite Rodgers' stellar play, though, the Packers faced their fair share of challenges. Sure, they finished the regular season with an 11-5 record, but the team's offensive line struggled, as Rodgers was sacked a league-high 50 times. Still, Rodgers found himself in the playoffs for the first time in his career, matched up against Kurt Warner in the Arizona Cardinals.
I know most people remember this game as the game where no defense was played. Highest scoring game in playoff history, and no defense was played by either side. I mean, I watched that game recently, probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, damn, every team is just doing whatever they want. There was no defense being played in that game.
And the game started in the worst possible way for Rodgers. On the Packers' very first offensive play, he overthrew a pass and it was intercepted by Cardinals cornerback Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. Arizona capitalized, quickly jumping out to a 17-0 lead. It was a disastrous start, and many wondered if Green Bay's young quarterback was overwhelmed by the playoff spotlight. But Rodgers didn't crumble under the pressure. Instead, he settled into a groove and began picking apart Arizona's defense with precision passes and big-time throws. Rodgers rallied the Packers back into the game, turning what seemed like a blowout into a shootout. By the second half, the game had transformed into a heavyweight fight, with both offenses trading blows. Rodgers ended up throwing for 4 touchdowns in total. Every time Arizona scored, Rodgers answered, keeping the Packers within striking distance. Late in the fourth quarter, Rodgers orchestrated a drive to tie the game at 45, sending it into overtime, and the Packers seemed to have all the momentum after winning the coin toss. But then, disaster struck. His first possession, Rodgers dropped back and looked for a deep shot. But before he could release the ball, it was stripped and returned for a 17-yard game-winning touchdown. A heartbreaking loss. But for the 26-year-old Aaron Rodgers, this was just the beginning. No one knew it then, but that 2009 season marked the start of one of the greatest primes in NFL history. Heading into the 2010 season, one big question was, did Rodgers elevate the Packers to a championship level? Unfortunately, the season didn't go the way the Packers hoped. Injuries dominated the headline.
It didn't, but at the end of the day, we got that damn ring. It don't matter if we got concussed. It don't matter if we went 10-6 and squeaked in the 6th seed. It don't matter. We won it all. That's all that matters to me.
Including key guys like Jermichael Finley and Ryan Grant. But Rodgers was still able to lead Green Bay to a 10-6 record. Worse than the year before, but enough to squeak into the playoffs as the NFC's 6th seed. Then, once the playoffs began, Rodgers took his game to historic heights. He led the Packers on a magical postseason run, starting with a dominant performance against the Philadelphia Eagles in the wildcard round. Rodgers threw for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a dagger to James Jones that sealed the win. But the divisional round game against the Atlanta Falcons was when Rodgers really proved he was for real. Facing the NFC's top seed, A-Rod delivered one of the greatest performances in NFL playoff history. He threw for 366 yards and 3 touchdowns while adding a rushing score, leading Green Bay to a stunning 48-21 victory.
I watched that game recently the other day, not the other day, maybe a couple months ago, and I was like, bruh, that might be one of the best games I've ever seen a Packers quarterback play against an opponent, especially against a top seed. I mean, you gotta remember, this is the top seeded Falcons coming hot off the press. With obviously I don't remember what their record was. Y'all let me know. I'm sure y'all let me know. But they was coming hot off the press. Great season. Ended with 48 points. You know what I'm saying? And he came out there and played a damn near flawless game. I mean, it was one of those games you're just like, damn, this dude was just locked in a zone. He was on one that night. And I really do wish he had at least just a couple more performances like this in the playoffs, because he played great for the majority of the time in a lot of the playoff games. But, obviously the defense giving up 30 plus points doesn't help. But I feel like if he played like this and he gave his team confidence, more often than not, he'd have more than one ring. What do y'all think? Let's get back to it.
Falcons simply had no answer for his precision passing and creativity under pressure, and he continued his insane play in the NFC Championship game against the Chicago Bears, delivering crucial plays to send the Packers to Super Bowl.
I mean, it was crucial plays, but it was the defense that led the way to our win, because he did not play well. He threw 2 interceptions. Did he throw a touchdown? I know he ran a touchdown in. I don't think he threw a touchdown. I think he threw 2 picks. It was the defense that sealed it. Otherwise, and I think if Jay Cutler doesn't come out that game, I think they might win that game, bro. Honestly.
45. Facing the Pittsburgh Steelers' ferocious defense, Rodgers put the finishing touches on a playoff run for the ages. He threw for 304 yards and 3 touchdowns, earning Super Bowl MVP honors and bringing the Lombardi Trophy back to Titletown.
And people forget, too, there were a lot of drops in that game by the Packers receivers. The game could have been a blowout. It could have been worse, and he could have had even better stats than he had. His stats look great, but it could have been even better had his guys know how to catch the ball. I mean, there were a lot of drops, man. So in the brightest lights, when he had that opportunity, he did show up. He showed his ass. So there's nothing you could take away from him from his one sole Super Bowl appearance. It just seems like it's conference championships that get him hung up. Let's go.
31-25 victory. Now, a lot of times after winning a championship, teams and players can undergo a Super Bowl slump, but not Aaron Rodgers. From the first game of the 2011 season, he looked unstoppable as he shredded defenses week after week, like his 6-touchdown masterpiece against the Denver Broncos, or his 4-touchdown clinic on Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions. The league had no answer for him as the Packers tore through their schedule, winning their first 13 games and finishing with a league-best 15-1 record. And as for Rodgers' individual performance, it was insane. He threw for 4,643 yards, 45 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions, finishing with a passer rating of 122.5, the highest single-season rating in NFL history at the time. His dominance was rewarded at the end of the season when he was named the league MVP. But despite the historic regular season, the Packers' campaign ended in bitter disappointment.
So tell me exactly why popular pace.
Final round of the playoffs, Green Bay faced the New York Giants, who went on a Cinderella Super Bowl run of their own, and the Packers suffered a shocking 37-20 defeat. But the next season, Rodgers wasted no time in delivering another elite season, proving that the playoff loss was a fluke. He threw for 4,295 yards, 39 touchdowns, and just 8 interceptions, while he also led the NFL in passer rating for the second consecutive year. The Packers finished 11-5 and secured a wild card spot, but would they be able to make up for the previous postseason's failure? In the wild card round, Rodgers shined, dismantling the Vikings with 274 passing yards and a touchdown.
Yes, but he's missing context here. Yes, he did, but remember who he went against. He went against Minnesota Vikings backup. See, that's the only thing I'm not liking about this video. You're right on what you're saying. Yes, he did shine in that game, but let's not take out of context. He was going against a backup at Minnesota. That's very important.
Then, in the divisional round, he faced the San Francisco 49ers,
and got his ass
a team
kicked.
that passed on drafting him. Unfortunately, Rodgers was unable to take them down, as the 49ers, led by Colin Kaepernick's record-breaking rushing performance, won 45-31. But everything was about to change, because in 2013, Rodgers once again got off to an incredible start, leading the Packers to a 5-2 record. Then, tragedy struck. In Week 9 against the Chicago Bears, he suffered a broken collarbone, sidelining him for 7 weeks. Without Rodgers, the Packers struggled, going 2-4-1 in his absence. Rodgers was finally able to return for the final game of the season in what would be a must-win game against none other than the same team that injured him. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and Lambeau Field's hopes rested on a quarterback fresh off weeks of rehabbing a broken collarbone. The game itself was a back-and-forth affair, and by the fourth quarter, the tension was high, with the Packers trailing 28-27. Time was running out, and Green Bay's season was on the line. Facing a do-or-die 4th and 8 at midfield with less than a minute remaining, Rodgers dropped back, scrambled to his left, and unleashed a perfect strike downfield to a wide-open Randall Cobb. The 48-yard touchdown was a dagger to the hearts of Bears fans. The Packers held on to win 33-28, clinching the NFC North title and a spot in the playoffs, where they once again found themselves matched up against the 49ers. But this time, they were determined to get revenge. Unfortunately, it was disappointment yet again. In 2014, Rodgers proved that he was back to 100%. He threw for 4,381 yards, 38 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions, finishing with a passer rating of 111.2. Rodgers was especially dominant at Lambeau Field, throwing 25 touchdowns and 0 interceptions at home during the regular season, leading the Pack to a 12-4 record.
I remember that run. That run, he was just playing flawless at home, and we were blowing people out. Wasn't this the year that we were like up by like 40-some points on the Bears at halftime or something like that? I think this was the year in 2014. I mean, it was embarrassing. We were embarrassing teams. But just because you embarrass teams doesn't mean you're always going to do that against the better competition.
Rodgers' elite play was recognized, earning his second MVP award in a 4-year span. But everyone knew how good he was. The questions surrounded the Packers and if they could get over the hump again in the postseason. In the playoffs, Rodgers battled through a lingering calf injury, yet he remained the driving force behind Green Bay's postseason success. In the divisional round, the Pack hosted the Dallas Cowboys in a controversial game because this crucial Dez Bryant catch was ruled incomplete, which caused the Packers to squeak by 26-21. The next week, Rodgers and the Packers traveled to Seattle to face the defending champion Seattle Seahawks. And with just over 2 minutes left in the game, Green Bay held a 19-14 lead and seemed destined to close it out after forcing Seattle into an onside kick situation. But, like clockwork, disaster struck again. The onside kick bounced off Packers tight end Brandon Bostic's hands and was recovered by the Seahawks, where they capitalized with a touchdown drive followed by a 2-point conversion to go up 3. Rodgers rallied Green Bay for a game-tying field goal in the final seconds, forcing overtime. But the momentum had fully shifted to Seattle.
Yeah, and it fully shifted, and our defense couldn't stop shit. That's the problem, man. It's like the defense couldn't make one stop. Not only the touchdown, but the 2-point conversion. I mean, literally, I remember that Russell Wilson just tossed the damn ball across his body, across the field, and it got converted. It's like, bro, somebody put a fucking hand up.
And in overtime, Russell Wilson delivered a 35-yard touchdown pass, ending the Packers' season in heartbreaking fashion. For Rodgers, it was a cruel reminder that even his brilliance couldn't overcome the unpredictable nature of football. And 2015 would prove to be no different. Another season of Aaron Rodgers carrying the Packers on his back, but more playoff disappointment, this time at the hands of the Arizona Cardinals. Despite the most outrageous Hail Mary throw you'll ever see from Rodgers, the Packers lost in overtime, and their fans were becoming increasingly frustrated with the lack of playoff success. And things continued to go downhill as the Packers found themselves 4-6 midway through the 2016 season. It seemed like the 33-year-old Aaron Rodgers had run out of juice and was going to miss the playoffs for the first time since his first year as a starter. But when asked about the rest of the season, Rodgers said this.
Wait a minute.
I think we can run the table. I really do. I think.
Was he 33 that year? He wasn't 30. He was 32. And then he was going into 33 in December.
It seemed like a joke, too unrealistic to be true, until Rodgers actually did it. He led the Packers to 6 straight wins, finishing the regular season with a 10-6 record and an NFC North title. Over that span, Rodgers threw 15 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. In the postseason, Rodgers continued his magic. He led the Packers to a thrilling wildcard win over the New York Giants and followed it with an unforgettable divisional round victory against the Dallas Cowboys, where Rodgers' sideline throw to Jared Cook in the closing seconds set up a game-winning field goal. The Packers fell to the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC Championship, but this season proved Aaron Rodgers was still very much in his prime and capable of carrying the Packers to greatness. But in Week 6 of the next season, Rodgers once again broke his collarbone, and without him, the Packers stumbled to a 7-9 record.
Aaron Rodgers, I mean, the season is just something, it almost feels like a funeral is taking place. I cannot believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be out for the year. I'm sick to my stomach.
Missing the playoffs for the first time since 2008. And although he was healthy for 2018, things just seemed off in Green Bay. Despite throwing for 4,442 yards and 25 touchdowns with just 2 interceptions, Rodgers and head coach Mike McCarthy were no longer on the same page. The Packers finished 6-9-1, missing the playoffs again, and McCarthy was fired. With new head coach Matt LaFleur calling the shots, the 2019 season represented a fresh start for Rodgers and the Packers. Rodgers threw for 4,002 yards and 26 touchdowns, leading the Packers to a 13-3 record and an NFC Championship appearance. But Green Bay once again lost to their kryptonite, the San Francisco 49ers. But with that kind of success after just one season together, there was hope that the LaFleur-Rodgers tandem could get the Packers back to the Super Bowl.
Controversial topic. Matt LaFleur. Is he the guy? I've been wondering this a lot over the past, now what is he in his 6th season he just finished? Heading into season 7, I believe. I don't think he is. I don't know what it is, but it comes across to me like Matt LaFleur is more of a friend than he is a coach. Friend first, coach second. It's kind of like how some people, you know, they're controversial topic. They're a kid's friends first, parent second. I don't know if that works so well. You got to be a parent. You got to show tough love a little bit, man, so that when they get out there and they learn how hard and how horrible this world is, they can stand up to it. And it's the same thing with the NFL, man. You can coddle your guys, but when they get out there on Sunday, them guys are looking to take their head off, man. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Let's get back to it.
Rodgers lacked high-caliber wide receivers outside of Davante Adams. So Rodgers began to make it known that he wanted Green Bay's front office to address the position in the draft. Instead, they went out and drafted quarterback Jordan Love in the first round of the 2020 draft. And Rodgers found himself in the same position Brett Favre was in all those years ago, mentoring the player who would eventually be his replacement. But Rodgers was far from discouraged. In fact, the Love pick lit a new fire in him, as he delivered one of the most dominant seasons of his career in 2020, reminding everyone that he was far from finished. Rodgers tore up.
He reminded everybody, I'm still that motherfucker. I'm still that nigga. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
League. throwing for 4,299 yards, an NFL-leading 48 touchdowns, and just 5 interceptions. His chemistry with Davante Adams reached historic levels as the duo connected for 18 touchdown passes, setting a franchise record. And the Packers finished 13-3 and secured the top seed in the NFC. In the playoffs, Rodgers continued his stellar play, dismantling the Los Angeles Rams in the divisional round with a 200.
And don't forget, see, you miss important details. And don't forget, the LA Rams were the #1 scoring defense in the league that season. So another big
96-yard, 3-touchdown performance. The Packers advanced to the NFC Championship to face Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But despite throwing for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns, Rodgers and Green Bay fell short again, losing 30.
But this one was not on him. Aaron Jones fumbling. There were a lot of different things. Yes, he did not take advantage fully of the 3 interceptions, 2 by Jair Alexander by himself. He did not fully embrace it, but he did play well. He played good enough to win the game. The defense was just atrocious. And guys just making fucked up mistakes. It's like Green Bay just has like this. I don't know what it is about the NFC Championship, man. It's like if the damn defense does not step up, they are not winning NFC Championship games. It's crazy.
26 in a game marked by controversial coaching decisions and missed opportunities. Rodgers' 2020 campaign earned him his 3rd NFL MVP award, but that elusive 2nd Super Bowl had him hungrier than ever in 2021. He led the Packers to another 13-3 season, throwing for 4,115 yards, 37 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions, once again making the extraordinary look routine and making sure Bears fans knew it.
It's Rodgers running for the score.
And he wasn't wrong. Over the course of his career, he had a whopping 24-5 record over the Bears, 26-5 if you count the postseason. The Packers finished the 2021 season as the top seed in the NFC, setting the stage for another playoff run. However, in the divisional round, the Packers faced the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm sure you can guess what happened next. But for the 2nd consecutive season, Rodgers was named NFL MVP, marking his 4th career MVP award, a feat that solidified his place amongst the all-time greats. This last accolade wasn't just another trophy. It was the ultimate exclamation point on an era where Rodgers dominated the game with unmatched precision, creativity, and poise. His ability to elevate teammates, orchestrate game-winning drives, and redefine what it meant to play quarterback at an elite level was something that we may never see again. The Packers did re-sign the 38-year-old to a record-breaking 3-year, $150.8 million deal. But the cracks started to show. Without Davante Adams and battling a broken thumb, Rodgers struggled in 2022, and Green Bay missed the playoffs after a crushing Week 18 loss to the Lions, after which Rodgers was traded to the Jets in 2023. He brought renewed hope to New York, but suffered a devastating Achilles tear just 4 snaps into his debut. Though he returned in 2024, it was clear that his best days were behind him. But his legacy was already set in stone because prime Aaron Rodgers was simply untouchable. His 4.34 touchdown to interception ratio is the best of all time.
I don't know if
large margin.
But I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I really don't. Just the way he was able to, and like I said, he makes big plays.
Doesn't even need to be measured by stats, MVPs, or rings. All you have to do is cut on the tape
Just look on the
and see
tape.
the many memories he gave fans, the impossible plays he made look routine, and the way he owned the Bears. As his career winds down, football won't just lose a great player. It will lose a once-in-a-lifetime talent who elevated the game every time he stepped on the field. If you enjoyed this video, stick with Blitz, subscribe, and check out some of our other content right here.
Gotta admit, it made me a little choked up because it just sucks to see Aaron go out like he did, 1 Super Bowl ring a long time ago. You know, maybe if we had invested in some really good pieces on defense, not guys that have great RAS scores, but guys that actually can make a difference. Maybe if we drafted Justin Jefferson, man. I mean, there's just so many things, man. Imagine Justin Jefferson and Davante Adams. They win the Super Bowl. Man, I don't know. It's just so many things. It's just sad to see an all-time great go out with 1 Super Bowl win. And that's going to be it. I don't see him winning anything else. This past season proved that to us with the Jets. He's done. But, you know, for me, as a Packers fan since 2007, I love Brett Favre, but I love Aaron Rodgers even more. And why? Because of the dominance he had against the NFC North and against just everybody in the league during that time, minus the postseason, But yeah, the regular season, I mean, we knew we were always in a game. We knew we were always going to dominate. We knew we never were down and out. It didn't matter if we were down by 2 scores. It didn't matter if we were down by 2 points. We knew in the regular season, he could bring us back and we could win the game. And that kind of confidence is something I don't feel with Jordan Love. And I hear that from other NFC North fans as well, that, you know, Jordan Love's a good player. They're like, oh, he's a good player. He's all right and everything. But I don't fear him like I feared Aaron. I feared Aaron. I knew Aaron was that motherfucker. He was that nigga. And if he had the ball in his hands with a chance to go score, he's going to do it one way or another. What do y'all think, man? Let me know in the comments below. And subscribe for more lit content. Let's go.